we want to talk about this particular book that every week I pull up something. So what has touched me, what's changed my life, what's changed the direction of my my mindset, what has moved me, what's gotten me off of my ass to make a difference. And this week is a pretty special guy. I never cease to be amazed at this guy.
Love him.
David Goggins.
Unbelievable. Anybody that's out there that goes through any struggles, challenges, or wants to reset, wants to reposition, this guy, David Goggins, can really I listen to this guy every day, especially when I'm running, I'm working out. I mean, he drives me home.
He sure does. And he drove me right to the emergency room because I broke my ankle, basically toward a ligament. I went from 0 miles ever to, I did kind of what he did. And we're going to go through the book in a minute here. But his first time out, he did a quarter mile, ran basically a quarter mile, and then went home and cried because he just thought he couldn't do it because he wanted to be in the Navy and so badly. I'll get into a story. But really
300 pounds.
300 pounds.
300 pounds.
Yep. And so what I did, I was listening to him and I was in Dallas and I went out and I ran about a half a block and it sucked. It hurt. Everything hurt. I couldn't breathe. My legs hurt. My feet hurt. Everything was burning. I walked back to the office and I was like, this ain't good enough. It's not good enough. So I went out and I did a mile. I ran a mile. I pre-mapped it. The way I always do my things is if I'm going to run a mile, I'll run it in a way, the path to where I only have to run a mile in one step. Yeah. And then it's easier just to finish it than to turn around because I'm too far. Yeah. So, but I got to make sure there's no shortcuts back, so that way I'm not having to run 2 miles or 1 mile. I run just half of it plus one step. And then it's just shorter to keep going.
And, he talks about, listen, everybody has their own pace. Jeremy,
yeah.
And and when people for some reason or another in their mindset, they think when you're running, you have to run at everybody else's pace. That's not the case.
No.
And business, and this is what obviously your podcast is all about. It's not about the pace. It's about the consistency.
Yes.
And if you can't run, then get your walking shoes on and walk.
Yeah. Exactly right. And I just have this 1, 2, 13 mentality, right? So I went from 0 miles to a half a block to a mile. Within 3 weeks or so, I was doing 6 miles a day.
Yeah.
And that was too much, too fast. And I popped a ligament. And so, I
remember that.
Yeah, I was laid up for quite some time, but this book here, as JK said, he had it in his mind to become a Navy SEAL, which his job before that, I won't get into too much of his life before that, but he was abused, abusive family. His mother took him away to another state, left his father. And he was actually killing roaches. Like his job was going out to restaurants and bars and killing roaches. And then this one time he hit this little ceiling tile and the roaches the whole nest came down on him. And he was like, that's it. I'm done. And he was taking a shower and he heard this documentary on Navy SEALs. He's like, I want to do that. Yeah. But he was illiterate. He had cheated his whole way through high school. He couldn't hardly read. And so when he went and took the ASVAB, of course, he failed miserably. And there's a weight limit thing and there's a age limit thing. Everything was against him. But of course, he made it. But here is kind of the top takeaways, right? So things don't always go your way. Number one, right? Really, this is something that people just think that they are entitled, right? They're entitled to get things. If they're trying something, they should succeed.
Yeah, I mean,
time.
There's a factor behind that called there's no peaks,
right,
without valleys.
Yeah, you can't have the flowers without the rain.
No,
right?
No, and you can't be on top without being able to work for it.
And
it's short-termed if you do.
Exactly right. And you're going to get a lot of these behind you, right? Bam. So, so that's one of his top takeaways is that just things aren't going to go right. And if it's worth doing, it's worth sucking at too, for a while until you get better at it. His 40% rule is one of my favorite things. So what that says is basically he thinks that everybody's potential, nobody even gets half of their potential. Yeah. So when you are feeling like I can't go anymore. When I was at that quarter mile, I wasn't even at 40% of my real potential. So when you sit there and go, well, shit, I feel like this and I can't do it. Everything's burning, everything hurts. But if I'm only at 40%, like David says, then there's well more than half to go. Yeah. If I double this, I'll still be at 80%. Yeah. So let's just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And if any of you that play any sports out there, you know, like I started playing tennis after I got through my different knee ailments. Like I was hit by a box truck and it clipped my knee out and I got surgery and
holy mackerel.
Started playing tennis after that and rehabbed it through biking and then started one-on-one with tennis and realizing, that I really like tennis, but then I evolved into pickleball. And, you know, I like 2 hours ago, I was out on the pickleball court and this 40% rule came up in my mind as, you know what, I was up against, you know, two 25-year-old guys that were fast on their feet. And me and another buddy of mine, I just turned 50 and my other buddy is 51. And we told these guys, listen, we're going to spank you guys. And they were laughing and giggling. And I'm going to tell you, the 40% rule came up and I went at it and gave it all I had.
And how'd you do?
Oh no, we won. We won. Oh yeah, we spanked up on these guys, but I gotta tell you, seriously, it's all mindset. I could see these guys starting to break apart. It's mindset.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that gives us to the next one, and I didn't have it next, but it's called Stealing Souls. So when he was his favorite movie was Rocky. There's this particular scene in Rocky where is against Apollo Creed, and I think it might be even Rocky 2, where he's fighting and he's hitting Apollo, and he keeps getting knocked down, and he keeps getting knocked down, and he keeps getting knocked down, and then finally, Apollo thinks he's done, and they've counted him. I mean, they're at 7, they're at 8. Apollo's in the corner with his arms up. Apollo is out as well, out on his feet.
Right.
But he turns around and Rocky's up, and Rocky's going, "Come on!" And the look in Apollo's face right there is like, holy crap. That right there, Rocky stole his soul.
Yeah.
And so what David did, and David took this to real life, because what you got to read the book and better get the audiobook, because this book is great, but the audiobook is almost a cross between an audiobook and a podcast, because David actually is on, his writer is reading the book. But after each chapter, David is interviewed by his writer, and his writer asks him certain questions. And so he expands on the chapter.
Yeah.
And so it's a mix between a podcast and an audible. Definitely get the audible book. So he did that in the U.S. In the SEALs, just stealing souls from his people at boot camp and trying to knock his ass down.
And I'm spiraling right out of that, like thinking about like a buddy of mine that I was playing with a couple of weeks ago. Such an amazing player. But, you know, he's a little carnivorous in the mindset. Like he, you know, if he gets a bad serve or he hits bad, then he starts kind of looking at everybody else and blaming them. And I'm like, hey, listen, dude, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You've got to really like focus. Don't worry about the mistake. Overcome the mistake. Don't start chewing away at your partner. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And that breaks away to being a part of the best team and who the people around you beyond on the court and the games you're playing and who you're competing with. I mean, we're all competing against something. And if you're not, then we're not doing business.
Thanks for watching that video segment. If you enjoyed it and like to see more content just like that one, click over here. If you'd like to see that video in its entirety, click over here. Thank you.